Welcome to Co-Teaching Tips from Education Leaders Part 3, a secondary perspective. Hi, Monica. Thank you for joining me today.
It's so nice to be here. Thank you.
Monica DeBerardinis is a special education supervisor, former high school special education teacher, and special education department lead. Monica, you bring a very interesting perspective to co-teaching from the secondary level. Could you tell me a little bit about how, at the secondary level, co-teaching, specifically around the area of small group instruction practices, maybe have affected co-teaching with the teachers that you've worked with?
Absolutely. Small grouping in the co-taught classroom is just an amazing place for us to be able to have these flexible groupings that give us the ability to meet the students where they're at. And we're able to provide that specially designed instruction to the students who need it. And it also gives us that ability to deliver services in the general ed environment.
Right. So Monica, when you say deliver services in the general ed environment, I believe you're talking about meeting IEP goals within the context of the general education classroom. I bet that some teachers might find that challenging.
Well, it's super challenging because traditionally special ed has been delivered in the resource room, right? And we want to get away from that. We want the students to be in these classrooms, and the classrooms have varying students with varied abilities. And so to be able to meet those needs and to be able to differentiate for these students, these co-teachers are working together to provide, the right services and instruction for the students.
Well, I bet data plays an important role in that. How are your teachers managing some of the data and progress monitoring requirements?
So obviously being in the classroom gives us that opportunity to collect that data right there in the classroom, which is awesome. And then to be able to use that for IEP progress monitoring, and also to, keep our groups, to know who needs to be in what group, and then also to be able to analyze and to see where the instruction is going, if it's effective, if it needs to be adjusted, all of those things.
Well, that's a great tip that you just gave us. So I'm assuming too, at the secondary level, there are some challenges. One of the challenges I know that secondary teachers face is this idea of content certified teachers versus perhaps a teacher with a special education background. How do teachers bring those roles together?
Yeah, that has absolutely been an issue in the past where the special ed teacher is like, I don't know this content. I'm not the specialist in this content. And that's what makes it so beautiful, because the general ed teacher is the content specialist, whereas the special ed teacher is the strategy specialist. So when they put their minds together and work together, the students really benefit from that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like a really good tip too, is to not to try to clone one teacher, but to have teachers stay in their areas of expertise and then to really honor and capitalize on those expertise areas.
For
Um,
sure.
does that lead to different instructional practices, like
Absolutely.
differentiated instruction or some other practices? Can you speak to that a bit?
Sure, absolutely. Well, the strategy instruction is intertwined with the regular instruction. And certainly the differentiation, it's really getting away from that whole group, which is what general ed teachers are typically used to doing. They're used to that whole group instruction. And so being able to help them to see how small groups, you deliver that direct instruction to the students, meet them where their needs, being able to be more flexible within the classroom, it benefits all of the students.
So when you speak about small groups, I know that there are many, many configurations in co-teaching that we can use that capitalize on small group instruction practices. And there's actually two kinds of small group instruction practices. There's the cooperative learning versus the what we would call direct instruction. Which kind of instructional practices are you talking about, or do we use both depending on the situation?
Well,
What do you
certainly,
suggest?
yeah, certainly we're going to use both, but when we're talking about a co-teaching situation where we have students IEPs that have specific needs, we're going to be delivering that direct instruction in those small groups.
Great. So it sounds like you're working to overcome some of those challenges. How do you help teachers move from that whole group instruction to that small group instruction, direct instruction practice?
So that definitely takes a lot of practice and training, good quality training. Also prioritizing the time for the co-teachers to plan together and to work together to do that planning for the classroom. And as I think as they work together and they see how the small group really benefits the students and the successes and the
Right.
progress that the students make, then
Yeah.
that gives more, it energizes them to keep going with it.
Well, that's awesome. Monica, thank you for sharing your tips and strategies. We really appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Monica. For information on developing your own professional development for your teachers, consider attending the National Co-Teaching Train the Trainers Institute Co-Teaching That Works. This live, interactive training, which will provide all the materials you need to create your own professional development, will occur July 12th through 15th virtually. See www.ber.org for more information.